two stop the fighting. You'd better learn to get along or else. That's better.
How can cartoons make us learn about conflict management? Let's check it out. In last week's video, I talked about Lean when addressing SMAD as a practical tool in reducing setup time. We also saw a step-by-step to apply SMAD immediately and start to save our precious time in order to use it with more important things. This week, I'm back to a leadership topic. Some roles of the leader go through motivation, celebration, recognition, and development. However, life is not a bed of roses. The leader also has some not so comfortable roles, but that are extremely important in the team's daily life. For example, feedback that we have already talked here before. And today's topic, conflict management. At home, at work, or with Tom, Jerry, and Spike, the characters from Hanna-Barbera cartoon, consensus and cooperation are not always attained. When we talk about team leadership, we know that we have heterogeneous roles, interests, and behavior in this group of people. These differences can and do bring conflict. It is very important to highlight that the word conflict does not, by definition, have a hostile characteristic. The conflict ends up when one or more professional or people defend their points of view, theses, and ideas until they are convinced by solid arguments, or they can convince the other party with solid arguments. The conflict does not have a personal nature, different from confrontation, which ends up being a more hostile position, where one seeks to overcome the other. Briefly, as approached by Mário Sérgio Cortella, in a conflict, we seek convincing the other party. In confrontation, victory is the goal. Even within our homes, where everyone seeks a goal of prospering and growing together, there are differences and conflicts. Even when everyone who is in this team loves and supports each other, there is a need to discuss and convince, isn't there? In a company, it is absolutely the same. No matter how aligned the strategy, the vision, and communication are, people with different backgrounds, different functions, cultures, and departments tend to diverge. And this divergence, this conflict, is absolutely healthy as long as it does not turn into a confrontation. The higher the performance of this team, the more natural the conflicts are. And the more mature this team is, the more likely that those conflicts are to be resolved more quickly. It is very important that the leader is able to mediate, to lead this conflict. This mediation and conclusion of that theme will bring benefits to the whole team, since there will be the conviction and unity for the team to direct all energy towards a now common goal. Conflict administration do not have a magic and definitive formula, but I believe that some tips can help the leader in this delicate moment. I'll list you 5 tips. First one, be impartial. The leader must remain neutral in this mediation. Tip number 2, use empathy. Be willing to put yourself in the shoes of those involved in this conflict. Tip number 3, get organized. Evaluate the issue, take the time, and define a suitable place to hold this meeting. Tip number 4, have emotional intelligence. Control your emotions and those involved. After all, you already know your team and you know how they would react under certain situations. When you know how to listen, you'll be able to ponder arguments and points of view. Tip number 5, capitalize on learning. In the end, after consensus, all of this discussion will serve to make the team learn. Those involved and the leader who managed that conflict. Channel all that energy of the whole team to the resolution now made together. Last but not least, a bonus tip. The clearer the communication of the company and department strategy and information, the greater the tendency for these conflicts to be resolved more quickly. So, share relevant information with your team. Managing conflicts is one of the most important roles in achieving a more cohesive and united team. Definitely, not everyone thinks the same way, but when knowing the strategy and objectives, decisions, opinions, and energies will be more easily directed. I hope these tips are useful for you as a leader to be more effective in your conflict management processes. Next week I'll be back with more leadership content made for you. Don't forget to give the thumbs up and subscribe. See you next week.